This is the flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Mack drops the throw. He's looking. Fires it to the left side. Corner of the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Brian Thomas Jr. for the score! Dropping the throw. Rudolph looking. Fires toward the goal line. That ball is going to be knocked away and incomplete. Antonio Johnson knocked it away from Nick Westbrook-Akine, and the Jags are going to win the game and sweep the Tennessee Titans.
Well, obviously you're trying to win the game, bottom line. You know, so the key is to make sure that everybody stays locked in and focused on the task at hand, right? I mean, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a big thing to do in the NFL if you can stack some good practices and games and carry that momentum, you know, wherever it may go. So we're definitely working for that.
Game day is underway. This is the Terminix Kickoff Show on 1010XL. Presented by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade Fast Twitch. Here are your hosts, Hayes Carline and Mia O'Brien.
It's the final countdown.
Well, it can't be the final countdown because those highlights would indicate the Jaguars are playing well.
Okay, fine. It's the season finale, Hayes Carline, if not of the Jaguars' 2024 season.
I mean, I'm fist pumping over here. I mean, I was under the impression this hasn't been a good year.
The Terminix Kickoff Show comes to a close, and we are going to go out with a bang. Will the Big Cats in their final game of the 2024 season? Well, one way or another, we expect fireworks this week here in Duval County. Welcome in this morning, Mia O'Brien, Hayes Carline, Dylan Denmark, keeping us on the air and pushing all the right buttons here at 1010XL World Headquarters. We appreciate you waking up with us early on this fine Sunday morning, the first of 2025. And man almighty, Hayes, you couldn't have said it any better. The Jaguars are ready to turn the page on 2024. I think I speak for everyone in the city of Jacksonville, everyone at the Miller Electric Center, to look towards a brighter future in 2025, one way or another. I'm about to tweet it out, and so I'm going to give you the floor. Our intention here over the next 2 hours is to certainly prepare you for the game that's about to kick off at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time up at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. But we're also here to keep it real. We'll tell you the very latest that we are hearing, what our expectations are for Black Monday tomorrow, and much more to come here in the city of Jacksonville over the next week, because that's all we can do right now is to keep it real with you guys. No sponsor included on that, by the way, but that's okay. And illustrate where this franchise needs to make moves over the next 3 to 4 months, let alone the next 3 to 4 weeks, in order to maximize the talent that they already have on the roster and that they could add in the next few months.
Yeah, that's very well said. I mean, to me, we're not really kicking off a game today. Today's kickoff show is we're kicking off the offseason. That's what everybody wants to talk about. That's what is energizing the fan base right now. It's not going and beating the Colts. I mean, yeah, obviously fans, I'm sure there's a lot of fans that would like to see them get a win to close out the season and feel a little bit better about a disaster. You know, there's obviously going to be a pocket of fans that hope they lose to protect the pick, and that's probably the camp that I would fall in. That's probably better for them long term. I think the die is cast on what is going to happen over the next 24 hours, but that's what the discussion is now, you know, and it's their fault. They're the ones that have played themselves into this discussion. The Jaguars have had one of the most disappointing years in franchise history for a litany of reasons. Front office and coaching staff, certainly beyond a reasonable doubt, both at fault enough that they should be both out on the front office side and the coaching side. And, you know, and then looking at how this job should appeal to the candidates that we believe will be the hot candidates out there, and how that stacks up. And what I think right now, Mia, I think it's a fantastic carousel for the Jaguars. And now we'll see if it changes. But I think right now the Jaguars are the prettiest horse that you could jump on this carousel compared to what's out there. So Yeah, I mean, the Jaguars play a game today, but the big story is, what is Shad Khan going to do in the next 24 hours to dig the Jaguars out of this malaise, or is he going to make the biggest mistake that he has made as owner and retain these two people? So fascinating 24 hours coming up for the Jacksonville Jaguars that has very little to do with a game at Lucas Oil.
In which both teams, have already been eliminated from the postseason.
Right.
I think that I do want to begin by saying this. Doug Peterson was the right hire in 2022. I want to make that very, very clear. Following the debacle that was Urban Meyer, that not only left an indelible mark, a stain on this franchise and the perception of it league-wide, but I do believe that it emotionally scarred the owner, and it scarred a lot of people down there. Doug Peterson, a steady hand, a veteran coach who had just taken the year off and had been re-energized, was the right hire in 2022. Ultimately, my concerns for him in 2025 regard the fact that he is the same coach he was in 22. He is the same coach that he was when he led the Eagles to a Super Bowl in 2017. And the league has changed. The players have changed. The style of which you need to lead has changed. And I would equate it to, quite frankly, that friend from high school who was your best friend in high school, but ultimately you go one way for your post-high school plans, whether that's college or a trade school or whatever, and they go another way. And that's not to say that if you saw them on the street, you wouldn't be cordial to them and reminisce about the good times. But right now, the relationship is not serving you as you seek to grow. And that is where I believe that relationship is at. I also think, and I've seen several of you on X do a tremendous job of illustrating this point, Trent Baalke was retained from the previous quote-unquote regime with Urban Meyer. Before that, he was technically a director of player personnel under Dave Caldwell. Dave Caldwell was retained with the Tom Coughlin administration. Dave Caldwell was retained with his prior administration. And so we have never actually seen, outside of when Mike Mularkey and Gene Smith were dismissed in 2013, we have never seen Shad Khan wipe the slate. It is 2025. The time has come. And to Hayes' point, if you really want to be the belle of the ball, you need that clean slate. We will talk a little bit about the game today, though, too. Don't worry, folks. So we do have to begin a little bit with some news and notes surrounding this matchup, again, coming up at 1 o'clock here on the Superstation. Of course, you can interact with us here on the Terminix Kickoff Show, 904-641-1010, the number to reach us at. Our YouTube studios, the MyBookie Digital Studios, are also live as we are coming at you live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. The biggest news yesterday is that the Jaguars' de facto leader, their captain on defense, Josh Hines-Allen, did not make the trip to Indianapolis due to personal reasons. Not going to speculate on that.
Yeah, I hope everything's okay. Hopefully it's a happy occasion.
Yes, so personal issues there. I don't think he has a young one on the way. I don't want to speak out of turn there, but we not going to speak out of turn about other babies that may have been born because I want those families to have the opportunity to announce it. But I do want to hear from Josh Hines-Allen earlier this week. He is obviously one of just 4 players who were on this roster in 2019. That was just 6 years ago, folks. Here he is about how frustrating this year has been.
I mean, I'm glad we won, and you know we're speaking on a week by week basis, man. I'm in a good mood right now, so looking to finish this on a positive note. But you know, we're not playing for playoff games, so obviously the frustration there. But you know, we won last week, and we want to make it 2-0, finish 4-2 in the division. We can do that going to the next season. Would be a good starting point.
To that point, yes, I think when a lot of you have been concerned about, oh no. Are they? Is there? I saw there was a report. I forget if it was Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated or who, where the suggestion was Doug Peterson is projecting confidence, and it sounds like they believe they're going to be back next year. How else are you supposed to operate? Josh said it best. You have to operate at this juncture of the season on a week-by-week basis, and you have to project confidence, or else you quite literally are going to get just absolutely steamrolled, not just on the box score end of things, Hayes, but physically on a football field.
Yeah, I think these guys, the players certainly are all alphas. They all have incredible confidence no matter how bad it's been on the field. I think, to your point, I think the same thing for coaches. Coaches are wired that they're going to do the job until somebody tells them not to do it anymore. And I think there always is that confidence of, hey, we're just one game away from a great performance. We can change things. We can fix whatever is wrong here. That's what you hope Shad Khan doesn't fall for here. This is beyond hope. To your point, Doug Peterson, it's just stagnant. Offensively, it's the same stuff he's been doing since he won the Super Bowl in 2017, which in NFL terms is a lifetime ago. And you're seeing that. I mean, if you watch this league, the Jaguars have one of the least creative offenses in the NFL, and it's reflected. And that's not the only problem. Doug Peterson has also lost all ability to pick a defensive coordinator. He is 0 for 2 here with Mike Caldwell, who was probably, I'd say, a D, and somehow he replaced a D with a complete F in Ryan Nielsen. So you have that. The front office, yes, has done some good things, but the batting average isn't nearly as high as what it needs to be. And you have to be realistic with that. If you get 40% of your decisions right as a GM, you're doing a great job. Trent Baalke's not getting. I mean, it's not to say Trent Baalke misses on everything, but it's just not enough. You look at the supplemental edge is a perfect example. I mean, how for 2 years could you have so little behind Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker? How could you possibly allow that to happen? And fortunately for the Jaguars, they both stayed healthy, but it still hasn't mattered. They've been terrible in sack percentage when you look at around the NFL and the rankings the last 2 years. This year, they're 30th in sack percentage. Their defensive numbers are just atrocious.
Remember when the pressure rate being high in 2022 was going to lead to a breakthrough in 2023? That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's just – and that's just one example of, again, it's been poorly built. The offensive line has been too much of a finesse unit. I think that's probably more what Peterson was looking for out of his guys in terms of athleticism than anything else. But that's the point. Like, nothing here is still to be determined. It is a 5-17 outfit in the last 22 games, and it's just got to start over. And for some reason, I get the perception that Shad is, I think, is kind of okay having to hire a coach. Really doesn't like having to hire a general manager because it was exhausting for him in 2013 hiring Caldwell. And then with Baalke, he didn't really have to go through that. It was sort of an in-house guy, and he just was like, okay, it's Trent Baalke. So I think Shad has always been somewhat scarred of the process of hiring Dave Caldwell. But again, you've now been in this job as an owner for over a decade. It's not as hard as you might think. I'm sure he's going to get some consulting help, but it needs to be a clean sweep at this point. There is nothing to me that he can sell to this fan base if Trent Baalke or Doug Peterson are retained, because you literally would just be punting on a season. There, in my opinion, there is no way that Baalke or Peterson can be revived enough and find the passion to turn this thing around. I don't think they have the capability of doing it. And, go hire a GM, let that GM hire a coach, and you're off and running. And I think in Shad's case, an EVP certainly wouldn't hurt either. So that's the other big variable we'll talk about. But it's beyond the point of expecting a turnaround. It would be fruitless to just say, well, I still think there's something here. There's nothing here. There hasn't been anything here all season. It was evident when they went to Buffalo in a must-win game and got absolutely shellacked on their way to an 0-4 start and beating a couple of the worst teams in the league, like the Patriots and the Titans. That should not carry a lot of weight with ownership.
What does the head coach, if only for one more game, think of the current situation, as he does each and every week? And we appreciate his time on the Frangie Show on Friday afternoons. Doug Peterson, one-on-one with the voice of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
The coach speaks. Jaguars coach Doug Peterson joins Frank Frangie right now Presented by Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors.
All right, it is time to talk a little football with the coach. Doug Peterson joins us to get set for the final game of the year, heading up to Indianapolis. Doug, how you doing?
Oh, good, Frank. Great. Thanks again for having me.
I appreciate that. Hey, final game of the season. Is the guys get emotional a little bit? You've done a great job of keeping these guys engaged. We've seen that week after week. What's it like this last week, the last practice, the last walkthrough, the whole bit?
Yeah, these last couple of weeks, I've noticed a different, kind of a different air, so to speak, around the facility. I think guys understand where we're at. We're not playing, for postseason berths or anything like that, but they're having fun at practice. They're joking. They're enjoying each other, and probably the way it should be here at the end. But it's not a quirky sort of a looseness about them. They're still serious, and they're still trying to go out and win these games. And we got one more this weekend, and then we're off into the off season. So guys have been really good. They stay locked in, stay engaged, and can't wait for Sunday.
Doug, how do you feel about how Mac Jones has played? It seems like he's found a little bit of a rhythm these last few weeks. And gosh, he made some plays with his legs last week. He made some big throws. How do you feel about how Mac Jones is playing?
Mac has really improved. The more he runs the offense, gets comfortable with the offense, the guys around him, all that kind of stuff. I've really been impressed. I think that was probably his best game, complete game the other day, and really took care of the football, just ran the offense, just like we asked the quarterback to do. And he's really been impressive, and I like where he's at right now.
The young guys are getting a chance, and they're stepping up. We've talked about Brian Thomas Jr., who's so good. But boy, Parker Washington made some big plays last week. That catch in the back of the end zone wasn't easy. Do you feel good about how these young guys on both sides of the ball have kind of stepped up in these last few weeks?
Yeah, Frank, I really have. You mentioned Parker. I think of Mason Smith, these guys, and even before he got hurt, Ventrell Miller was playing solid on defense and special teams, and these guys are really getting some valuable snaps, and that's kind of what the league is. The league is younger. These guys are playing a lot sooner. Been really impressed with the rookie class and how they're performing in game, and it's just it's something they have to learn to be a pro. How to handle their business on and off the field, and what it takes to, get themselves ready to go. But been real impressed with the way they've approached it and the way they've been playing.
A couple other guys I want to ask you about before we get to the Colts real quick. I've been really impressed with the toughness of some of your veterans. You told me a story a couple weeks ago that Brandon Sheriff can't even high-five people. That shoulder is so wrecked. But, boy, you can't keep him out of there, man. And Mitch Moore's the same way. You've got some veterans that love playing, don't you? I'm impressed by those guys. Yeah,
we really do. Those two guys, they're those what they call those old crusty veterans, right? Those guys that love to get down and dirty, and they play physical and tough, and both of them play hurt. Brandon's face is all bloody at the end of the game, and just guys that they set the tone, they set the tempo. I think for the week, they don't ever want to come out of practice, they don't want to come out of games, and they just set a great example for these young players.
What do you see with the Colts now? Obviously, you've already beaten them once, and you've played well against the Colts in these recent years. What do you see now? It looks like it's going to be, I'm guessing it's Flacco, not Anthony Richardson. When you see the Colts on tape, what do you see?
Yeah, number one, defensively, you're going to see some different faces. Some starters that were missing from that Week 5 game that are going to be playing on Sunday. That shores up their defense a little bit, gives them a little more stability on defense. And I think the biggest change, I think the biggest thing we're going to see is Jonathan Taylor. He's missed some games against us here recently, but he's back and he's playing. He's healthy and he's running all over the place. He's one of the top running backs in the AFC, if not in the NFL right now, and so that's going to be a big challenge for our defense.
Final thing here. I know you're proud of your Pro Bowl guys. Russ Matisic and Logan are both first-team Pro Bowlers. Josh and Trayvon and obviously Brian Thomas Jr. are alternates. That's an exciting thing for those guys. We're starting with certainly Russ and Logan, who are going to be Pro Bowlers out of the gate. I know you feel good about what those guys accomplished, don't you?
Yeah, it's always good to have a couple Pro Bowlers every year. Ross and Logan have done an outstanding job this year. Logan is, is the best I've seen him punt in my 3 years here in Jacksonville. Ross, has been solid. And then really I feel like BT might have got an opportunity to be a starter, but I'm happy for him. I think he'll still go to the game with some of these playoff teams that may not send a player or two. But just so happy for Brian and then Josh and Trayvon for the tandem, that they do each and every week and what they put in. It's a credit to how hard they work and then of course their body of work on the field. So happy for all 5 guys, but the 2 starters, Ross and Logan, excited for both of them.
Yeah, and by the way, I agree with you. I think BT should have been a starter. I'm biased. We're all biased around here, but I think so too.
We're all biased. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, final thing, Doug. People don't understand how much is on a head coach's plate. They don't live the life you guys live. Every week, though, you've carved out time for me on this show. I really want you to know how much I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun doing it and getting to know you off the air as well. But thank you for all the time you spent. I've had fun on these Fridays. I appreciate you doing it, bro. I mean that very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Frank. It's kind of fun to talk some ball on my ride home, and you just remember, you're always before my mom's phone call, so keep that in mind.
Doug told me beforehand he calls his mom, but he's going to call me first. So believe me, I've never forgotten that. So we appreciate it. Doug, enjoy.
Right. I appreciate it, Frank.
Enjoy the call to mom. I'll see you on the plane tomorrow. Thanks, buddy.
All right, thanks a lot, Frank.
All right, Doug Peterson, the head Jaguar coach. Jags and Colts coming up on Sunday afternoon.
And we appreciate Doug Peterson, the first coach in Jaguars history, as far as we know, or at the very least in the 17-plus years of 1010XL, who has joined the station weekly. And we greatly appreciate Renewal by Anderson for bringing you that segment each and every week. We will hear from the voice of your Jacksonville Jaguars coming up next right here on the Terminix Kickoff Show, brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade.
There are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and Jags football.
To the 5, into the end zone, touchdown!
Jaguar football lives here. 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Navy Mutual was created by service members for service members, so we know what it means to serve. Our policies have no active duty service restrictions, so you can rest assured that you're covered no matter your duty station, home or abroad. To go even further, we promise that premiums will not be higher for those who serve in dangerous environments, including aviation, diving, or on deployments. Let us help you protect those you love the most. Learn more at NavyMutual.org.
Hey, Jacksonville Koozies, it's me, Soccer Sam, for Salvatore's Pizza. Rochester, New York's favorite pizza is now open in Jacksonville, Florida, Tapestry Park at the Loft Hotel Plaza. Daily $10 deals, dine in with beer and wine, and delivery at Salvatore's.com. The famous Formoso family brings Salvatore's Pizza, Rochester's favorite pizza, including our 32-piece sheet pizza for your next event. Go with me, baby. Salvatores.com.
I'm here with Clayton Bromberg of Underwoods. You hear about guarantees and warranties. What is Underwood's policy?
Frank, to talk about guarantees and warranties, you have to look at our history of over 70 years in business. Underwood's entire reason for existence is and has been to offer fine products that will be used with such satisfaction that both the giver and the receiver will want to come back. And hopefully they'll tell their friends about us. To do this means we've got to try our hardest to satisfy every customer. All of our people understand that. Now, I'm sure over the years we've made a few mistakes, but we've never failed to make good on any Underwood product that was returned with a legitimate customer complaint. Our entire reputation would mean nothing if we didn't conduct ourselves that way. Simply put, conducting our business with integrity is a lot more important to Underwoods and our customers than all the guarantees, warranties, and contrived legal obligations in the world. And you've got Underwood's word, my word, and all of our people's word on that.
Underwoods in San Marco, Avondale, and the shops of Ponte Vedra.
3D Digital has you covered for any of your business's digital marketing needs. From producing award-winning videos to getting those digital ads to follow your customers around the internet, our team has your back. Visit 3ddigital.com or give us a call at 904-712-4004 to schedule a free consultation today. 904-712-4004.
Find out why soccer is the most popular game in the world and spreading fast on the First Coast.
On the Sporty Jack Soccer Hour.
Join Cole Pepper, Mauricio Ruiz, and Becky Burley as they discuss the latest in the world of soccer.
Tuesday nights at 6.
On 1010 AM. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line.
Hello.
We can wiggle it.
We appreciate you joining us. 8 to 10 a.m. this morning, the Terminix Kickoff Show. Mia O'Brien, Hayes Carlyon, Frank Frangie joining us live from Indianapolis, where I don't think the snow has started to fall. I know a football game will take place, and Frank, per Jim Irsay's Twitter, obviously the roof will be closed for today's contest between the Jaguars and the Colts, which you will have the call of. How are you on this fine Sunday morning?
I am doing well. There's no snow yet. I have, as you heard, I have heard the game's indoors today. That's good. It is real feel last night was 12, and I think it's warmed up today. A bit of a heat wave blew through here. I think the real feel is 18 this morning, so way better. But we're ready for some football. I see a little bit of snow, like just on the ground, but it hasn't really fallen that I can see it yet, so I think we're okay.
Tell it to warm up a little bit before Hayes and I get there for the Combine in February. We would really appreciate that.
Yeah, without a doubt. Frank, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry we're getting a little later this morning. That's my fault. In terms of looking at the matchup today, really the only thing that I think has grabbed all of our attention is just Brian Thomas Jr. and the phenomenal season he's having. Didn't get the Pro Bowl nomination, although it looks like with Zay Flowers, he as a first alternate will probably get there. But do you think we see a Brian Thomas Jr. playing a little angry today and wanting to show the world that he should be in that game? Do we see a monster number from the rookie in the finale?
Yeah, I think so, Hayes. I think there's a lot of the storylines here. You guys kind of talked about it at the top of the program. The storylines here for both franchises is what happens after the game. And it's disingenuous to suggest that that's not the main storyline. It's obviously you guys outlined the Jacksonville situation, your opinion on what the Jags should do. The same thing's going on in every talk radio station around here, as you can imagine. I think Shane Steichen is safe. Chris Ballard, probably not so much. Is Anthony Richardson the guy they go with? Does Gus Bradley lose his job? You know what I mean? So I think the storylines for both franchises are the stability and what happens moving forward. And again, it's disingenuous to your point when you guys started the show to suggest anything other than that. As for what happens on the field, Hayes, to your point, God, I got to believe you throw it to number 7. Number one, let him get his number, as many catches as he can and increase his number. Number 2, he's your best player. You're still trying to win the game, you know. And so with all the things that haven't gone well this year, one thing that has gone wonderfully well is the development of that outstanding rookie. He's your best player. I also think you're going to see some balls to Parker Washington. He's part of your future. I think Brenton Strange is part of the future. But, yeah, I've got to believe an awful lot of Brian Thomas Jr. today as you watch the football game.
Before we talk big picture with you, Frank, I do think there is one other storyline, if any, that we could follow from the actual game, and that is, in addition to certainly the younger players, which I'm going to ask you, maybe not so much an X factor, but what younger players you're excited to see in this game between two teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs. Jonathan Taylor did not play the first time these two teams met. For what it's worth, DeForest Buckner did not either. What can we expect from the Colts in terms of what sort of fight? Yes, but also some certainly pieces that would have factored into that Week 5 meeting a little bit more if they had been healthy.
Yeah, well, let me start with the offense, Mia. I think first things first, Jonathan Taylor's one of the best 3 or 4 backs in the league. He's a really good player, and they didn't have him. You're right. But I don't know that all you're going to see is 28 today because Joe Flacco's going to play, and he lit up the Jags last time. So the 39-year-old veteran is probably can't wait to face the Jaguar defense because he had so much success against them last week or last time. So my guess is you see balance from the Colts only because they were so successful throwing the football, particularly late in the game against the Jags last week. But yeah, there's going to be an awful lot of Jonathan Taylor. I still think the Colts, of all the things they don't have, those 2 tackles, Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, are about as good as they are in the league. And the Jags have faced really good defensive tackles this year. Even a team like the Titans, who aren't very good overall, but Sweat and Simmons are so good in there. So I think those guys are good players. And the Jags, as much as they want to run the football, they've not been a good running team. They've not been a good run-blocking team. So I think you're going to see the ball in the air more than you would think in a game like this because it's going to be hard to run against those two defensive tackles, to your point about Buckner. And even though the Colts have Taylor, man, they had a lot of success throwing against the Jags last time. So I would imagine you're going to see some of that too. So I think you're going to see a little bit of balance from both teams. I really do.
You think the Jaguars will do a better job against Flacco than they did? And they won the game in Week 5, 37-34. But to your point, Flacco had 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and was incredibly hot late in the game. You think the Jaguars will struggle again, or do you think they'll have a better idea of what the Colts want to do?
God, I hope so, Hayes. I hope it's better than last time, because there was no excuse for Alec Pierce getting behind the Jags as much as he did in that fourth quarter, when the game really should have been decided, but it wasn't decided because they kept hitting bombs late in the game. So I would think one thing, you're not going to let Pierce get behind you. But I do worry. I mean, you guys talked about Josh Hines-Allen. Listen, of all the things that went wrong this year, and Hayes, you kind of talked about it in y'all's first segment, they haven't had any depth at the edge, and well, now one of those guys is not here today. So yeah, I worry about the pass rush. Will there be any factor at all? Mason Smith's playing better. There's a little bit of an interior rush, but it's not significant yet. So yeah, I think they'll play. The mindset's got to be you can't let them throw it over the top. That's the one thing they did last time. Let's hope it doesn't happen this time. But yeah, I think I am concerned a little bit about stuff. Flacco's a statue; he can't move at all. But if you can't get to him, that doesn't really matter.
Couple more for Frank Frangie on the Garber Automall Hotline live from Indianapolis. He will have the call today at 1 o'clock with the Hall of Famer Tony Baselli. Maybe there'll be more titles to that to come in the future. I'm not so sure. Jeff Logman and Bucky Brooks. Frank, I don't need names right now. Hayes may, but I don't need names. I need big picture.
I need names.
Okay. Hayes is going to need names.
We're naming names.
Given that you sit here in this very studio with him 2 hours a day, I don't think that's a surprise to you. Philosophically, big picture, what does this organization need heading into 2025?
Yeah, well, if it's a new name, I got to reach out to Bill Parcells. That's where I'm starting. Okay, I think I bring him in as both coach and GM. I think we start there.
That would be awesome.
I think that's what we do. Here's my thought on that, and I know it's a topic. I'm the play-by-play voice of the team, and until those two guys are not in place, if indeed that's what's going to happen, it's probably not appropriate for me. And I hope I'm not ducking your question. I think you get that. As long as I'm paid by the team to call the game, the last thing I should do is start speculating about this name and that name if the jobs aren't open. Once the jobs are open, if indeed that's what happens, well, then that's a different conversation. What I will say, though, is to your question, because it's a fair question, somehow, some way, they got to get on the same page. Somehow, and I don't mean just the coach and the GM, I mean the organization, somehow, some way, the culture, everybody pulling in the same direction, the fan base being excited about who's in place, everybody aiming the same way, if that makes any sense. They've got to figure that part out, regardless of who that winds up being, whether it's the existing people, whether it's new people. It's felt disjointed, and we all know that. It's felt dysfunctional and it's felt disjointed. And I think the coach and GM being in concert is part of that. I think there's a lot of things that are part of that. So I'm not trying to duck your question, but it's not as a play-by-play voice of the team, I can't say hire this guy when there's already two guys hired. I hope that makes some sense.
Frank, I do think a 4-2 division record is significant if the Jaguars get the win today. Not so much for the verdict on the current administration, but to me, it would illustrate to potential candidates, if there is an opening, that you can win in Jacksonville right away. I mean, you can come in and take down Houston right away and win this division, as opposed to, again, the Bears. The Jets and Saints, to me, don't even factor into this because they're lost causes. But the Bears, maybe you could look at as a chance where you have a chance to win, but the division is so brutal. So that's why I think that's a big feather in the cap for the Jaguars, not just for a feel-good moment for this group, but also in selling it as, look, come here. We just had a terrible year and still went 4-2 in the division, and it doesn't appear like the AFC South is going to be light years better next year. I think that's a significant in the present and future for the Jaguars. How do you feel about it?
I agree with you, Hayes. I think when you pull the good, everyone's so disappointed by the bad, and there's been a lot of bad. Last in the league in defense and low in offense, and only won 3 games or 4 games to this point. And everybody knows all the bad. The bad's there, okay? but there is some good. And the good has been the development of young players. The good is you've paid some important pieces of your core. Your starting, your pass rusher, your cornerback, your quarterback are all paid, and that's a good foundation. I think it serves two purposes. Quite frankly, for the people that are in place now, Trent, Doug, and whoever, they can go to Shad and say, listen, it blew up this year, but we've had 2 winning seasons. We've been 4-2 in the division 3 straight years. We've played all these games really close. We're close. We need continuity. Keep this thing going. That's their position. To your point, if he doesn't stay with those 2 guys and he does blow it up and has to find new people, that's exactly right. You can go to the new people and say, look, we've been 4-2 in the division 3 straight years. We've been close in these games. We've got the foundation. So either way, whichever way it lands, Hayes, your point is a good one. There's been some good that they can lean on if you can get beyond all the bad that's driven us all so crazy. I truly agree with that.
Frank, as we wrap with you here on the Garber Auto Mall hotline, know you have to make your way to the stadium. I usually ask you each and every Sunday for an X factor. We can certainly go in that direction for both the Jaguars and the Colts. But with so many young players on display today, maybe that's a good place to wrap. Who are some of the young players who will have an opportunity today who you say, hey, we need to see some returns from that guy at Lucas Oil Stadium?
Offensively, it's been the ones we've been trying to watch there all week long. It's been Brenton Strange. It's been Parker Washington. It's been Tank Bigsby. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. It's been young, skilled guys on offense. I think that we hope to continue to develop. Obviously, all of a sudden now Trey Prince is their third corner. He's going to play some. Monteric Brown is a starting corner who's been pretty good, to tell you the truth. He's been a pretty good starting corner. You're not going to have Ventrell Miller, I wouldn't imagine, today. So you're not going to see him, but he's the guy that would qualify. Mason Smith has stepped up a little bit. For keys to this game, though, who's going to rush the passer? I mean, again, I think the point of all the things, listen, everybody wants the coach fired and the GM fired, and they point to this and this and this and this, and there's a lot of validity to all of it, regardless of how people feel. I may not feel the exact same way that others do, but there's some validity to some of the problems. But of all the problems, Hayes, what you hit at the beginning of the program, they only have 2 pass rushers on the whole team. On the whole roster, they've only got 2 edge guys. You should have 5 edge guys. You know, I mean, that's a rotating position, and now one of your edge guys isn't here. So I think one of the real keys to the game is, can anybody get to Joe Flacco? I think that's important. But as for the young players, yeah, I think Parker and BT and Strange and Tank and, of course, Trey Prince and Mason Smith and all those young guys who are playing now will all be a factor. It'll be fun to watch those guys.
All right, Frank, I would say that concludes the discussion of the game on the field today, but we will continue it, don't worry, as well as a whole lot more coming up here on the Terminix Kickoff Show. We appreciate you, Frank, taking time before you call the game each and every Sunday to join us here on the Terminix Kickoff Show.
All right, man. Hey, take care. Thank you.
And, of course, he will be on the call at 1 o'clock today right here on 1010 AM, 92.5 FM with the Hall of Famer Tony Baselli. Again, we'll see if more titles get added there at some point. Jeff Lageman, Bucky Brooks, former Jaguars as well. I alluded to it, and I think it's true. We are going to talk big picture. We're going to talk things we're hearing. But first, our news and notes, the Farrah and Farrah injury report, our X Factors, still a whole lot to do in hour number 1 of the Terminix Kickoff Show right here on 1010XL.
From the preseason to the playoffs and every day in between.
Each man individually preparing himself to be the best he could possibly be. Better than he's ever been. Because that's what it's going to take.
At 1010XL, the season never ends.
Imagine a place where the sun is always shining, the drinks are ice cold, and the food is bursting with flavor. Welcome to Hurricane Grill and Wings, where locals and visitors alike gather to weather this storm we call life. And you can escape there anytime you like. Today's forecast, hot, crispy wings with a 100% chance of frothy beers. Later, we're predicting big burgers and seafood tacos moving in. Even better with a Pepsi. HurricaneWings.com.
Everything about the game has changed, except for the most important thing. What you have inside. It is what drives the game. It refuses to be ignored. It sweats everything, turns an athlete into a legend. Gatorade, is it in you?
From Gatorade Zero to Gatorade Endurance Formula and Gator Light, there's something for every athlete. Find it at your local Winn-Dixie. It's a win-win. Gatorade, official partner of the NFL.
Is your AC ready for the holidays? Bold City Heating and Air ensures your AC stays in tip-top shape. We know that a clean AC is a healthy AC. Upgrade yours for just $96 a month and enjoy free duct cleanings with your new system. Plus, ask about our 0% financing options.
Bold City AC. We got the crew. Bold City AC.
Visit boldcityac.com.
This is Taylor Doll of Helmets and Heels inviting you to join me and Bud Light at Top Dog Tavern for the Jags game this Sunday. Let's close out the season and toast to new beginnings, hopefully. We'll be at Top Dog with prizes and beer, so join me for a chance to win Jaguars tickets to next season.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. The personal injury attorneys of Farah & Farah present this injury update. Farah & Farah. Jacksonville. Exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Let's do it, folks. There is a game going on today up in Indianapolis. Hopefully everybody who has made their way up there, if you're listening from up there in Indiana, sometimes we get fans up there from that Indianapolis region here on the Superstation on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Hopefully you are safe, and hopefully you will be safe driving back from what I am now seeing in the forecast, and expected 4 to 8 inches of snow between late afternoon today and midday tomorrow, Hayes Carline. But it's an indoor stadium, so no need to worry about the status of this game. It will go on. Not playing in this game will be the left tackle for your Jacksonville Jaguars, Walker Little, already ruled out, did not make the trip to Indianapolis. As we mentioned, Josh Hines-Allen, for personal reasons, has also not made the trip to Lucas Oil Stadium and will not play today. Ventrell Miller officially listed as questionable on the Jaguars' Week 18 injury report. In speaking with Doug Peterson on Friday, sounded that like that would be more of a doubtful status. And so it'll be curious to see if the second-year linebacker does go. Only other players on their injury report, Ezra Cleveland, Brandon Scherf, both with knee injuries, no designation. And then Darnell Savage has cleared the concussion protocol. I spoke with him in the locker room on Thursday, Hayes, and he is expecting to play on today, this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, really, to be honest, health-wise, you know, I think it's not a bad situation considering where you are. It's unfortunate about Ventrell because you'd love for him to get those reps, and maybe he's active. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good that Savage is back. Obviously, we've talked about the toughness of those offensive linemen, so you know, we'll see. But you know, I think a big piece today is not having Josh Hines-Allen, and can they do? I mean, if you're the Colts, you should put 3 guys on Trayvon Walker. I mean, which is absurd, but I mean, who else do you possibly have to worry about? I mean, as we've documented, once you get beyond Josh and Trayvon Walker, the next highest guy in sacks on this team is Mason Smith with 3. It's remarkable, the absence of it. So I'm curious to see how that works out today, because again, Joe Flacco, if you give him time, he's shown he'll dissect whatever Ryan Nielsen's trying to do.
Maybe we'll find somebody in our X Factors coming up in just a little bit. One thing that I said either last week or the week before, Hayes, that I think needs to be reiterated. When the story is told of the Jaguars' 2024 season, yes, you lost Trevor Lawrence for the year. Yes, you lost Christian Kirk for the year, Evan Ingram to injuries, to surgery. I understand that. But this is not a team, when you look back, especially in the recent history of this franchise, and you say, man, they were devastated by injuries, that there were, I don't know, like the Detroit Lions right now, 11 starters on one side of the ball have lost and have missed a significant amount of time because of injuries. That's not the case here. You have one player, 2 players technically because of Josh Hines-Allen with the personal reasons. You have 2 players who've been ruled out of this season finale. And aside from that, you are incredibly healthy. And the same can be said for the Indianapolis Colts, who, after Julius Brents was upgraded, I guess the opposite of downgraded is upgraded and reinstated off the reserve injured list and will play here in the season finale after being on IR with a knee injury. They have 1 player with an injury designation. That's Anthony Richardson, and that's a whole other can of worms that let's dive into it right now. Your take on Anthony Richardson, who the former Florida Gator quarterback, has back spasms now, we're told, by Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Colts. But this is far from the first mysterious injury surrounding the second-year pro. And him being the long-term answer in Indy right now, the expectation is that he will be the starter opening day in 2025, and Stephen Holder of ESPN up in Indy is going to join us at 9:20, and I'm excited to get his take on this. All the reports are that he will be the starting quarterback, but at some point in time, this has to become a pattern and a question, the injury history, does it not? Let alone everything else involved with his play on the field.
Without a doubt, it was a huge issue in college for Anthony Richardson and continues to be. And you know, again, it's he's terrible. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, his completion percentage is 47.7%. I mean, you just can't tolerate that in the NFL. It doesn't matter what he gives you as a runner. The 499 yards of rushing and the 6 rushing touchdowns is inconsequential when you're 47.7% completion, your 8 touchdown passes to 12 picks. Your passer rating is 61.6, 30 points lower than Joe Flacco, who's been a disappointment in Indianapolis in terms of a guy that they were hoping could step in and deliver some magic. I'll give Shane Steichen credit. They've won 7 games, which at least they've kept it interesting until losing to the Giants last week to be eliminated. So now we don't really know what kind of energy the Colts will have at home in the finale today. But in terms of Anthony Richardson, I if it were me, if they fired Chris Ballard and I was being interviewed for that candidacy, I would be very clear. He should not be on the roster. You've made a mistake. You should release Anthony Richardson and move on. He will never, all you were doing is postponing the inevitable. He is way too broken as a quarterback. Even the durability is a massive problem as well, but the professionalism, tapping out of a game because you're tired, he's just not built to be a franchise quarterback. And he has no feel for the position at all. So, I mean, again, I would have never taken him out coming out of Florida. I mean, to take him in the top 5 of the NFL draft based solely on his traits was, I thought, idiotic. And now we've seen it play out. If you can't complete 48% of your passes in this league, then it's not only is it an embarrassment, but what an absolute slap in the face to the other men in that locker room that this is what you're putting out there at the quarterback position. And
it's crazy because that number 48% is probably, at least from all the reports and the wonderful job by Zach Kiefer and The Athletic, the expose they did on the state of the Colts this week, the 48% completion percentage number is low on the list of how is Anthony Richardson still the quarterback? What is his long-term status here in Indianapolis? When you hear things like the tap out, the conversation with he and DeForest Buckner, in which DeForest Buckner reportedly said to him, I re-signed because I believed in you, and now you're tapping out of a game. You need to show up and put in the work. Questions about his work ethic, questions about if he's arriving to the facility on time, first one in, last one out. It's a fascinating situation, and I will bring it to this question. I agree with you. I do believe Shane Steichen is safe because last year without Anthony Richardson, who was lost for the season after week 6, with Gardner Minshew at the helm, Shane Steichen was able to guide the Indianapolis Colts to 1 game away from a playoff berth in his first year as a head coach. So I do believe he's safe. Could I see a situation where Irsay says we need to clear house entirely? Yes, because Jim Irsay is a pretty unpredictable character. Y'all love to say Shad Khan is unpredictable out there. No, Jim Irsay is the ultimate wild card when it comes to the National Football League. But the questions surrounding the general manager, Chris Ballard, a guy who has endeared himself to the media, has always been accessible. He is a favorite, not just because of his jovial nature and how he is so transparent, but because he has a long history of taking those guys who, quote unquote, kill it in the pre-draft process or were elite players at the college level. And so they're names that you know. And so you look at his draft classes and you say, oh, great job, Chris. But what does he have to show for it? Because in the 8 years, Hayes, that he's been the general manager up in Indianapolis, Dave Caldwell has more AFC South titles, and Trent Baalke has more AFC South division title crowns than Chris Ballard does. That's why I think it's 75-25 that he is gone.
Yeah, I think they've got to move on from Ballard. I understand that, the Andrew Luck retirement blindsided them as an organization, but you've had enough time to find your footing. And, it started with veteran Band-Aids at that position. And then they invested in the wrong quarterback coming out of college in Anthony Richardson. So, there's been other issues, but I agree with you. I think Shane Steichen's a good head coach. I think that Indianapolis would be well served to keep him, but I think they need to move off of Ballard and bring in another general manager. What the Colts have become, I think, is pretty toxic. And again, to lose to the Giants last week in the manner in which they did is a massive signal that there's a lot of problems. And so, yeah, if it may end up being a clean sweep, but I think Steichen deserves, if Steichen gets fired, I think Steichen deserves another chance somewhere else.
One note that I will give you listeners, because we promised what we're hearing, scoops, this, that, and the other. If Chris Ballard is bid adieu in Indianapolis, the name to watch for is Ian Cunningham, the assistant general manager of the of the Chicago Bears, who previously worked with Shane Steichen in Philadelphia, came up through the Baltimore Ravens system with Ozzie Newsome, and also, if there is a general manager vacancy here in Jacksonville, it would be expected that he would be in consideration here. And so that's where I do want to tie the two together, because I do think a Colts GM vacancy and or head coach vacancy could affect the Jaguars head coach GM vacancy that could be open in 24 hours time, if not more. And that is where these two teams are tied together even more closely than just the game at 1 o'clock today. Some other news and notes that I do want to get to you guys. In case you missed it, the Cleveland Browns have fired offense coordinator Ken Dorsey this morning, as well as offensive line coach Andy Dickerson. Head coach Kevin Stefanski is expected to return. Ultimately, I think that this was just a marriage that was doomed from the start, Hayes. They brought in Ken Dorsey because they wanted to curtail to Deshaun Watson, and now the expectation is that there will be a quarterback competition of some kind, despite the money that is guaranteed to the former Houston Texans quarterback, the nasty man. And I also do want to give a shout out before we give you our X Factors. Logan Cook, Ross Matisic, round of applause, Dylan Denmark, both selected to the Pro Bowl. For Matisic, this is his second consecutive selection. He also was an All-Pro last season. And for Logan Cook, it is his first Pro Bowl nod. And Hayes, you and I have been in the locker room with Logan now for 6+ years. He's been in the league 7 years, whatever the tally is. He and I came into Jacksonville together, and I know it's a well-deserved honor that has been a very, very long time coming for Logan Cook.
Yeah, he's been the best performing Jaguar consistently throughout his career. And our good buddy D-Rock likes to point that out. He's right. You asked Michael Duraco who's the best player on the roster, he'll tell you Logan Cook in terms of getting the job done.
And consistency.
Yeah, and consistency. And there's a point to that. So, it was good to see Logan Cook get rewarded and Ross as well. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. will get in, particularly now that Zay Flowers has a knee injury. I mean, because now you're looking at it, the Ravens could go all the way to the Super Bowl, and maybe if Zay Flowers is playing, then he wouldn't, play in the Pro Bowl. I wouldn't think the games, whatever they're going to,
whatever they're calling
jump
it
roping
these days,
or whatever
right.
they're going to be doing, but yeah, I mean, it was certainly good to see. I think Heath Farwell is done a really nice job as special teams coordinator. He is somebody that I think they should look at if there is a new staff, and I believe there will be. That's a one that you might want to look at. Probably one of the few in terms of guys that are in house that that I think if there is a new head coach, you might want to look at at retaining Heath Farwell. I think he is a smart young coach,
and he's energetic, enthusiastic, and it's effusive in his praise for those guys. And I think it even for us in the media, every time I see Heath, I'm ready to run through a wall. Logan Cook is among those 4 players who have been on the Jaguars' active roster since 2019. You already heard from Josh Hines-Allen. Here is Cook, a captain this year and 2 years ago, on the state and the mood of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, Heath kind of gave us a little bit of an insight into how they revealed it to you and Ross.
Yeah.
Tell us about Cam's presentation.
Yeah, it was something else. When a rookie gets up there last week of the season and starts talking about finish, he was kind of making some quotes about finishing the season strong. And everybody was kind of looking around like what was going on. And then obviously he called me and Ross up there, so it was pretty cool.
Awesome. And for you guys to have it be Cam that presented you, that was the one that gave it to you, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. I mean it's fun to be obviously selected with Ross. He's the best in the league by far. So to be able to be classified in the same category as Ross is pretty cool. And I know one day Cam will be be with us there too. He's had that type of season. He's just young, so I think sooner or later maybe we could have 3. So that'd be neat.
Who would you call first?
Who did I call first? Oh, my wife, for sure. Yeah, my wife. I had about 5 minutes between then and the team meeting, so I had to make some quick phone calls. But yeah.
No group text. It was just you got to call.
No, you got to call them. Yeah, because I know it's coming out in the next 5 minutes, so you have to, call your pops and mom and let them know too.
What was your emotions like? Was it relief? Finally, excitement.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense of relief just because I feel like I've had a few seasons that were good enough. But again, it's all part of God's timing, and that's something that I've had to trust. And it's kind of sometimes it's hard to trust that, But yeah, it all worked out when it was supposed to work out. So I'm excited.
Was this your best season, or others that you're just as proud of?
I mean, I think statistically, yes. As of now, I know we have one more game left. It was definitely by far my best until Oakland, just kind of down game, which those are going to happen. And but yeah, I think probably statistically, probably one of my best. So.
Is it more special that you're going with Ross?
Oh yeah, by far. I told him, he's got to show the rookie the ropes there. So we're excited.
More importantly, does this mean a trip to Disney World for the family?
Yeah, I know Coop's going to be fired up. So Tate's a little young to really enjoy it, but I know Coop will be excited.
Do you even know what competitions are for you? Have you looked into anything at all yet? Or
not at all. Not at all. I try to not think about it too much, just because there's a sense of if you get too excited about it, don't happen. There's more disappointment there if you've been kind of dwelling on it. So now I'm about to dial in and look into it.
One, non-Pro Bowl question just for you, having been one of the more veteran leaders, having been through ups, downs here. How would you evaluate mood in the locker room getting ready for this final game?
Yeah, I think the mood's good. I mean, the guys have been close this whole season, despite the record and despite, what outside people might think and what outside noise says. But yeah, I mean, as a crew, we're all still tight knit, and it sucks we haven't won this year, and it sucks that this is the last week that we'll all be together. But yeah, I think go on a high note and win and go 4-2 in the division, and that's a silver lining for this year.
We appreciate Logan Cook, and we are excited to see him in the Pro Bowl games. Very excited for Coop and Tate to get to take on Disney World as well. Let's take a look at our X Factors for this week, beginning Dylan Denmark.
Play fake this time. Flacco, look. Fires deep down. Look at a man wide open. That is Pierce. Caught it at the 25-20 along the right sideline. That is going to be a touchdown for the Indianapolis Colts. Alec Pierce has been a killer of late. That is a 65-yard touchdown. And the Colts have stormed back here, and they're an extra point away from tying this game.
All we can do is laugh when we look back, Hayes Carlyon, at Alec Pierce averaging 44-plus yards per reception, and almost all of those receptions coming in the final 5 minutes of the Jaguars' 37-34 win in the first meeting between these two sides. This one's plain and simple. In terms of the Colts, I never thought I'd say this in his, year 16 in the National Football League. Do not let Joe Flacco air the ball out. Do not let this become an air raid Joe Flacco extravaganza as the Jaguars did the last time these two teams faced.
Yeah, that's a great one. For me, I'll say the X factor is Trayvon Walker.
Hey, yo.
Because without Trayvon, I don't know who is going to remotely bother Joe Flacco today off the edge. So maybe Mason Smith can do something from the interior. He's been a bright spot of late. I'm not counting on Eric Armstead for much because he's been a complete disappointment this year. So other than Trayvon Walker, who is going to provide some pass rush with Josh Hines-Allen out for today? Again, I think this is only going to expose Trent Baalke's one of his greatest mistakes over the last few years, which is just a stubbornness and reluctance to devote really any significant resource to building up the edge beyond Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. He's been fortunate that they've both been healthy these last 2 years, but today not having Josh, I think it's going to be further exposed of just what a terrible job he's done building that important position.
What do you make of Mason Smith?
I think he's good. I like Mason Smith. I'd like to see the Jaguars lose the game today and protect their draft pick, but I'd be all for taking Mason Graham out of Michigan and pairing him with Mason Smith. That would be kind of a fun Mason and Mason marketing thing there for the team, but just two, I think, really great players. And so I like Mason Smith. I think he had to learn kind of how to be a pro earlier in the year by his own admission. But I think you see the athleticism, and again, as he is fully now recovered from an ACL injury in college, I think you're starting to see a guy that, has learned what it takes to get the job done at this level. So I think year 2 for Mason Smith and beyond could be really special.
Stick a pin in draft talk, because we are going to do a special Fix Your Franchise mini segment in our final hour of the Terminix Kickoff Show. Still a whole heck of a lot to do. We will hear from Stephen Holder of ESPN. We do have our keys to the game on the other side. We are just getting going, folks. This is the Terminix Kickoff Show. The Terminix Kickoff Show brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Mia here. When it comes to roofing, whether it be shingles, metal, or most repairs, there is one name that has protected your home since 1999. Pro-Jax Roofing. Serving all of Northeast Florida, Mike and his guys have been repairing and replacing roofs for 25 years. Need insurance help? Mike's team can help. Raised in a military family, Mike provides great attention to detail with unparalleled quality and workmanship. They also have warranties, so you can have peace of mind. Call Mike today for a free estimate or online at projaxroofingfl.com.
This college football season, we're celebrating more than touchdowns. It's time to honor playmakers of the classroom. Thanks to FIS and the College Football Playoff Foundation, Gator Bowl Charities is surprising 16 local teachers with $1,000 each week. Every honored teacher gets a special invitation to the Taxpayer Gator Bowl January 2nd to be celebrated on the field. Teachers from Clay, Duval, Nassau, and St. Johns County, grades K through 12 are eligible. Nominate a deserving teacher today, and let's score big for education at TaxpayerGatorBowl.com.
Why do you choose Farah and Farah? First, we have the financial resources to take on any insurance company, and our track record proves that we know how to win. Our attorneys and staff are a team, and we've worked together for decades. To us, our job is much more than just a paycheck. We love to help, and this is important. We never forget. It's not about us. It's all about you. Farah and Farah, Jacksonville.
After a storm passes, the assessment of the aftermath begins. Sometimes damage to the roof is obvious. Leaks or missing shingles, broken or damaged gutters, or tree debris. But storm damage is not always as clearly present. Universal Roof and Contracting is here to help and will come assess your roof for any hidden damage. Call Universal Roof to schedule your free roof inspection at 855-ROOF-HELP or visit universalroof.com. License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
Good drives bring more points. Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville brings you the drive of the game.
Great job.
On 1010XL. Drive to the game in luxury with Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville. This is the flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM and FM. Jacksonville Beach. 1010XL. Home sweet home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now the keys to the game. Brought to you by Instant Keys. Fast, professional, honest locksmith service.
Hour number 2 is here. Thanks for hanging out with us on your Sunday morning. Mia O'Brien, Hayes Carlyon, Dylan Pockets, Denmark, hanging with you till 10 a.m. right here on the Terminix Kickoff Show, brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade. So many ways to interact with us. Hit us up on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, 641-1010, or the MyBookie Digital Studios. Yes, we are live on YouTube, X, and Facebook as we speak. So be sure to leave us a comment, leave us your thoughts, whether that be pertaining to today's game, which we will give you keys to, or the long-term picture here in Duval County. All right, Hayes, let's hit it. For me, when it comes to the state of both of these franchises, this game, quite frankly, comes down to who wants it more. Yes, but before we get to that, I do want to hear from Ryan Nielsen, the defensive coordinator for your Jacksonville Jaguars, because not only does it sound like he wants it more, he was asked about whether or not this defensive coaching staff has done enough to be brought back for a second season.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. First of all, we love this place. We want to make this into the best place that it can possibly be, and we're here for the long haul. That's for sure. We're in it, and no one ever said it was going to be easy, and sometimes it takes longer than a year. So. Yeah, we're here. We're ready to take the next step, win this game, and then go into the off season. And we have a plan already. We've talked about our off season, what we're going to do, what the things that we've really got to focus on, and when we get into the self scout and some positions of how to maybe tweak some things to be better next year. And so it was a great learning experience. Wish we could have won some more games for sure, especially those close ones. There's so many close games that we had an opportunity at the end of the game to pull one out here and there, and I think it could have changed our season. Really do. Definitely think that we have a bright future with this football team here, and we got the pieces in place, and we've just got to focus on some of the things to help us win those games next year. It really comes down to, you have even the games that we've won. I mean, those are one-score games too, except one of them. So there's quite a few one-score games, and you win a few early, and it could change the trajectory of the season. And that's kind of how we're taking the approach, and we'll continue to be positive with the guys and go into this offseason being very positive, but understand that we've got to do some things better so we can change the outcome of games next year, for sure.
This is the reason you live stream our show, so that you can see Hayes Carlion's live reaction to hearing sound bites like that one from Ryan Nielsen.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good dude, but, I mean, you're 31st in yards, you're 29th in interception rate, you're 30th in sack rate, you're 27th in third down, you're 28th in scoring defense. If I can't imagine a world in which Ryan Nielsen is back, because even if Shad Khan, I think, does the improbable and retains Doug Peterson, I can't imagine Doug Peterson is going to keep Ryan Nielsen as his defensive coordinator. So, again, he seems like a really good dude. I know his family's gone through some tough things, so, wish him nothing but the best. But there's no chance that Ryan Nielsen is going to be involved in any kind of off-season plan and tweaking. And the defense has been a disaster. I mean, and to your point, it's been a relatively healthy unit, unlike the offense. And there's just no excuse. The Jaguars have way too much talent to be in the bottom 5 in this league in all these significant categories. So we'll see what they do today in the finale. I think, covering, certainly, again, with probably not having much of a pass rush, can they somehow contain a guy like Josh Downs, the young Colts receiver? I think's got a good connection with Flacco. Pittman is a good possession receiver as well. So, a lot on Tyson Campbell in that secondary today, because you're probably looking at having to cover for that split second longer, or maybe 3 seconds longer than what you would normally be accustomed to.
I mentioned it off the top that not only is there dysfunction here in Jacksonville, but there's also dysfunction up in Indianapolis. Listening to Ryan Nielsen, whether you agree with whether or not he should be back, I do think there at the very least appears, if only in a press conference, to appear to be focused. There appears to be fire, if nothing else. I'm curious if we feel like up in Indianapolis, maybe the same can be said, given some of the comments from Shane Steichen this week regarding accountability.
Yeah, Shane, I don't know if you saw Pat McAfee's post-game tweet or if you were made aware of it, but he talked about players showing up late for treatment, for meetings. He wondered about the accountability. Is that true? Buck suggested that it was an issue at times throughout the season.
Yeah, I think with any team, right, not everyone's going to be on time every time, but there is accountability, and guys are held to a standard, and that is talked about in-house, and I don't think that. And I think, with anything, I think Pat, he's a former alumni that wants to see the Colts do well, just like all our fans want us to do well. And when the standard isn't, not getting in the playoffs, it's frustrating. So it's frustrating for a lot of people, myself included. And that's why we talk about the standard just being raised so we're not, in these situations.
Who wants it more? Who has a firmer grip on the steering wheel? That, for me, is one of the biggest keys to the game in a game in which, I mean, throughout almost the entire week, Hayes Carline, the Indianapolis Colts have been favored by 5, and that was prior to the news that Josh Hines-Allen has not made the trip. And so I think the folks out in Vegas, just like the folks here in Duval County, are trying to figure out, which, by the way, the line has actually shifted to 3 this morning in favor of the Colts. I'm wondering if there's something going on we don't know about up in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
The point is that I think everybody's trying to figure out in this game who is more focused, who is more locked in, and who is more locked in on draft position in Cabo.
Yeah, without a doubt. I will say this for the Jaguars, and this isn't, again, this doesn't change how I feel about what should happen, but I do think Doug Peterson deserves credit for it. It hasn't gotten as publicly toxic here as it has in Indianapolis. And it easily could have. The Colts have had way more success. They have 3 more wins. So obviously they've had 3 more weeks where they have felt great about where they stand compared to the Jaguars. But it's gotten really ugly up in Indianapolis just from an outsider's perspective looking in at it. And it does feel like, other than, we talked about Andrew Wingard's comments a few weeks back that were certainly critical of the staff and his use. But for the most part, it feels like you haven't heard a ton about that it's not buttoned up down there, that, guys miss meetings, that tardiness is an issue, like there's a lack of professionalism. I don't think that exists here, which, again, is another reason why I think it's a good job, because I think, and you said it very well at the top, Doug Peterson is, if it's over, and it should be, he's leaving the Jaguars, I think, better than he found them. I think that is appealing for an incoming head coach. There is a culture of professionalism here. I do think it's been pretty harmonious considering the adversity that they've gone through.
Professional. They've kept it professional throughout.
Right, and I think they deserve credit for that, because Indianapolis has sort of embarrassingly unraveled over these last couple of weeks publicly, and they've had more success. So I do think that, that's a feather in the cap as it goes out of the building for Doug Peterson and his coaching staff.
And by the way, unpopular opinion, Trent Baalke has left, if this is the end. He has left this franchise in a better spot than it was in 2020. Now, part of that, of course, was Dave Caldwell and Doug Marrone were largely charged with tearing this thing down. But you can't deny, well, there have been missteps, to be certain, with Trent Baalke. Plenty of them. Bringing in Christian Kirk on a free agent deal, bringing in Evan Ingram on a prove-it deal, drafting the young man you're about to hear from in Brian Thomas Jr., some of the other draft selections that he's made. Well, yes, there have been questionable ones, but the likes of an Anton Harrison, the likes of a Walker Little, who you've now extended, the likes of Tyson Campbell, who you now have extended, regardless of your thoughts on his injury history, because ultimately when he is healthy, he does appear to be a top 15 corner in the National Football League. And so ultimately, I do think that as we have this requiem and this in memoriam for what could be the final game of this regime, I think it's important to note that this roster is in a better state, and it's better suited for one of those premier candidates to come in who has a modern, contemporary grasp of the National Football League and hit the ground running, both offensively and defensively. The young player I was alluding to, of course, Brian Thomas Jr., not only an X factor, not only a key to the game, he has been a human highlight, even if it's been a disappointing overall season for him in the National Football League with regards to the team that he plays on.
Really just all the things I learned throughout this season, just all the growth that I've had throughout this season, just take it into next season. Because a season like this can only make you stronger. Even though we've been having the season that we had, a lot of things haven't gone the way we wanted. You just got to look at the bright side and take away the good things that you got out of it, and take away the bad things too, just for next year. Just know that you don't want this feeling anymore, and know what you got to do to be better from it.
And I think it's important to note that, yes, Brian Thomas Jr. should be a Pro Bowler. Yes, he is second in the AFC in receiving yards. Yes, he's top 5 in the National Football League in multiple categories as a rookie. And I think that is even more impressive when you consider the dysfunction around him, but also the fact that he has had Mac Jones throwing him the football for the better part of this season, and an offense that, look, dating back to last year when this team started 8-3, even with Trevor Lawrence at the helm, this was an offense that's been clunky. since the opener in Indianapolis last year that you were up there for, Hayes. And I can only hope, pray, imagine if this offense was to operate on peak efficiency, what more we can see in the coming years from number 7.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., if he stays healthy, has the makings of a superstar. And I think you bring up a lot of good stuff there in terms of what he's been able to prove. He's proven that it's not just because I've got Trevor Lawrence. He's been every bit as successful with Mac Jones. Now, part of that's because he wasn't the focal point of the offense until later in the season. But he has shown, look, I don't need my starter to produce. I can produce with a guy that probably isn't going to be a starter in the league in 2025. He's also proven that he can go and produce when the defense clearly knows that he's head and shoulders the most dangerous facet of the offense, starting with that Jets game. And he's been magnificent. So he has been the consummate pro as a rookie. Certainly is maintained a very humble nature, and he has put up just consistent superstar numbers. So it's incredibly exciting. And your point about Trent Baalke is a good one in terms of if you look at the core of what your premium positions are as a football team, well, you've got your quarterback, you've got your receiver, your number one receiver, you've got 2 good edge guys, you've got a good corner, and you've got 2, I'd say at least serviceable to good offensive tackles. So, yeah, you need another receiver, you need another corner, but normally if you're a new GM stepping into a job, when you look at those core premium positions, you might be lucky to have 2. You probably don't have the quarterback. So the fact that the Jaguars can make an argument of, look, we've got 7 of those guys here, and you still have a lot of draft capital. That's the thing. This is not a rebuild. This is not a tear it down to the studs. This is a retool. This is a change in mentality, and they can be right back to contention and winning this division next year if ownership hires the right people.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. The comp for me is the Los Angeles Chargers from 1 year ago. First off, the fact that Joe Ortiz, the general manager, the first-year general manager out there, was able to largely keep that roster intact despite the cap hell that they were facing, which, by the way, the Jaguars' cap situation isn't great, but it also could be way worse. You could be the New Orleans Saints. You could be the Los Angeles Chargers from a year ago. They were able to rework that roster so that largely, outside of the 2 wide receivers, everybody was able to stay, and all Jim Harbaugh did was change, and I say all, and it sounds like it's easy, but it was just a simple turn of the key. It was a couple millimeters, just turning up the intensity, changing the identity with the same group of players largely, and they find themselves in the postseason this year. And so that is my hope and expectation for the Jaguars. I do think, and we mentioned him during our X Factors, I do think that another young player that we need to see more from today and is a key to the game and is a key moving forward, especially to your point, Hayes, regarding the draft, is Mason Smith. Here is Ryan Nielsen on the second-round picks development.
He's a really talented guy, and some really talented guys get by on their athletic ability, and everybody's talented here. And so maybe that realization of like, wait, man, I got to work a little bit harder, study a little bit more. Like, these things really matter in this league. And glad he did that, because you're seeing his future is very bright. And the trajectory that he's on is pretty cool to see, and how he's working at practice, and Jeremy Garrett with it. Like, those guys work really well together in that room, and see a very bright future for Mason ahead, as long as he continues to do the things that he told you about the other week.
Will it be Mason Smith? Will it be BTJ? Who will step up for the Jaguars today? One thing we do know, again, our biggest key to the game, who wants it more with 2 teams that have already been eliminated from the playoffs, but also questions long-term for both the Jaguars and the Colts. Let's get the Indianapolis perspective from Stephen Holder of ESPN. He joins us next right here on the Terminix Kickoff Show, brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade.
Your radio highlight reel.
Caught for the touchdown.
1010XL, home of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey. Here in North Florida, you know that when temperatures go up and your AC goes out, you need help now. Like right now. Like lickety-split. So why not call Lickety Split and get same-day emergency service for your AC? Now, I bet you've seen their trucks all over town because they've got dozens of certified technicians ready to repair not only your AC, but your home's plumbing and electrical too. So when you want it done right, and you need it done right now, call Lickety Split AC Plumbing and Electric.
Hey everybody, Jennifer Marion with Randy Marion Cadillac in Jacksonville here to say hello, and we'd sure like to have your business.
You know what? They're going to love the king of price.
My dad believes in making great deals and having a great selection in stock.
Cadillac XT4s, XT5s, and XT6s, and Escalades.
The all-electric Cadillac Lyriq.
CT4s and CT5s.
Cadillac luxury and selection is just waiting for you.
At Randy Marion Cadillac, Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville.
And don't forget, tell them Jennifer sent ya.
Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Dandy Foods. Dandy subs and sandwiches. Look, we always want you to think about those great options as you're driving around Duval. But the beauty is, even as I'm dropping pounds, Dandy's got great options for me as well. Told you all about their protein packs, delicious salads that they have out there. They have fruit cups for on the go. You know what they have. Veggie snack trays. You can grab those on the go as well. Perfect, healthy snack. Dandy is the name to know when you're on the go. So stop into a Gate store anywhere around Duval and make yours a dandy. And do it today.
Here we come. The best defense is a superior fence. Superior Fence and Rail highlights the defensive player of the game. On 1010XL, Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters.
If you're ready to transform your yard with a fence that stands out, elevate your curb appeal with Superior Fence and Rail. Superior takes pride in offering first-class service, friendly installers, and unmatched fence products. Mention this ad and get $250 off your next project. It's time to get off the fence and call today.
When you're on the fence, about a fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Does the building you go to work in every day need a little love and attention? Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Great companies take great care of the buildings their staff and customers walk into every day. If the building you're in doesn't match the vision you have for your company, we can help. Go to performance-painting.com. Our highly trained team makes the difference. Quality coatings applied with pride.
Performance Painting!
Cannonball!
Honey, someone's in our pool.
Oh, refreshing!
John, what are you doing?
Oh, hey, Dave. Seeing as how me and the guys at Clearwater Irrigation reinstalled your sprinklers after the pool contractor ripped it out, I thought you wouldn't mind if I took a quick dip.
But in a Jaguar print Speedo?
Yeah, Dave. My bad.
Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
Being an athlete means having a healthy desire to do as much as you can with your body. For as long as you can. Gatorade has lower sugar, electrolyte-backed hydration options to keep you rehydrated and replenished. Gatorade, for every athlete.
From Gatorade Zero to Gatorade Endurance Formula and Gator Light, there's something for every athlete. Find it at your local Winn-Dixie. It's a win-win. Gatorade, official partner of the NFL.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now let's go behind enemy lines. Behind enemy lines. Brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors on 1010XL.
Just like this show, this edition of the Terminix Kickoff Show has been a bit unorthodox. We're certainly talking about the game at hand. Something tells me that this Behind Enemy Lines, Hayes Carline, will also speak to the bigger picture, the bigger storylines outside of what will occur between the lines at Lucas Oil Stadium at 1 p.m. today. Stephen Holder of ESPN, kind enough to join us here on the Terminix Kickoff Show. Stephen, thanks so much for hopping on.
Hey, hope everybody's having a happy New Year.
Appreciate it. Happy New Year to you and yours as well. And I think the burning question, not just here in Duval, but in Indianapolis, is will it be a Happy New Year? Will it be a fresh start in 2025? Let's get right into it, Stephen. While we will ask you about the game at hand, I am curious about the long-term picture in Indianapolis. What are you hearing as far as the status of Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard moving forward?
Yeah, sure. That's a much bigger story than anything that's going to happen today. So I would say, as of now, look, I have no indication that a big reset is coming. But I would also say information has been hard to come by. And I think if you look at national reports as well, you're not seeing a lot of specific information on what to expect from the Colts. And it's because no one knows. But I think here's what we do know. This is a recurring issue this team has had of coming up short at the end of the season and being notoriously average, right? And look, there are a lot of average teams in the NFL, but when you have a certain amount of talent and you set expectations at a different level and you consistently come up short, I think we've gotten to a point where certainly the fan base is tired of it, and I wonder if we are at a pivot point where something has to happen. I know something has to happen. I mean, the fate of, for example, defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, who you know very well, he might be in trouble. I'm just going to be blunt. The defense failed miserably, and that's a problem for him. So his fate is certainly up in the air. I think the questions about Shane Steichen I think he perhaps went backwards this year. There was a lot of optimism about him this time last year. There's not right now. And then Chris Ballard, it's 8 years of a lot of mediocrity. So no one has really a lot to sell from their perspective right now. And I think it's a tough place for the Colts to be.
Hey, Steven, it's Hayes Carline. Thank you so much for joining us, and certainly Happy New Year. In terms of the quarterback situation, we know Flacco will start today, who was great against the Jaguars in Week 5 and in a loss that Indy had here in Jax. But in terms of Anthony Richardson, where do you kind of assess where he is in his career, and what's your opinion on where he should be in the plan moving forward?
So there's no way of sugarcoating what happened this year, which is it was a disappointment from a development perspective. The arrow was up after last season. Yeah, I know. He played 4 games, and that is about as small a sample size as you can get from a rookie. But what he did in those 4 games, really, it didn't leave a lot of questions whether he belonged in the league. The question was his durability. Now we have questions about why didn't he progress? Why did he regress in a lot of people's minds? Can his accuracy get better? And now there's also still durability questions. So, look, he still has the big playability is still there, and he showed that at times this year. That is not in question, but that maybe isn't enough, and that's the question the Colts have to face going forward. Personally, I think that the most likely expectation is he's the quarterback, or at least he enters next year as the quarterback, and then we'll see what happens. But I think I fully expect the Colts to add some quarterback competition this offseason. I don't know who that might be. I don't know if it's draft pick, a veteran, but I do anticipate there will be a quarterback move in addition to bringing Anthony Richardson back, and then we'll find out what he is once and for all.
Couple more for Stephen Holder of ESPN up in Indianapolis on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. Stephen, back to the front office situation in Indianapolis. According to Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, there's been much more involvement from Carly Irsay Gordon, the daughter of owner Jim Irsay, and certainly Jim has not necessarily been as out in the forefront and out in the public spotlight as he once was. I'm curious if you believe that note is to be true, and if perhaps that could spearhead a clean sweep or drastic change up in Indianapolis.
No, she certainly is much more involved in the operation of the franchise, but that's also not really new, is what I'd say. She has been taking an increasing role for several years. I would say this, Jim Irsay still sees himself as the person making the final decisions with this franchise. And as long as he is in his right mind, that's going to be the case in his eyes. Now, he has physically had a lot of issues. That is undeniable, and he has not been, for example, able to travel to road games like he used to and things like that. But in his mind, he's still in regular contact with Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen on a regular basis, evaluating things. That, for him, has not changed. So I still think the decisions, for right now, they lie with Jim Irsay.
Stephen Holder joining us, who covers the Colts for ESPN. You can follow him at Holder Steven. Steven, in terms of looking at some of the young players the Colts have that in terms of that nucleus. How would you assess it? I tell you, a guy like is Josh Downs, the young receiver. Give us your opinion on his development, but some of this, the core players that the Colts will certainly be bringing back in years to come.
Yeah, look, they're not devoid of talent. I think they actually have a lot of pieces, to be completely honest, but they have not been able to put it together, and that's what's been so striking because they do have players like Josh Downs. And I really like Josh because he has this year, I thought he added some explosiveness to his game. You know, he was more of a true slot receiver last season. He is still a slot receiver because he's tiny, but he was able to, within that role, I think, bring some explosiveness and some big playmaking to that position. So that I thought was a big development for him. Look, Jonathan Taylor's going to end up with about 1,300 yards this year after missing 3 games. So, I mean, they still have some talent like that. They have DeForest Buckner still on this roster. I think he's a top 5 defensive tackle in this league, gets double teamed as much as anybody in the NFL. So, I mean, there are pieces here, but what has prevented them from putting it together? Quarterback for sure. They haven't had any quarterback consistency since Andrew Luck walked away. And then they've got to figure out, why did their defense fall apart the way that it did, despite having a lot of investment on that side of the ball. So that was really disappointing. So, but there is definitely a workable roster that needs to be tweaked, but definitely some pieces that can carry them through.
Stephen, the last time these two teams faced back in Week 5, it was a 37-34 win for the Big Cats. However, the Colts made it awful close for comfort in the final 5 minutes of this game. Joe Flacco, 33 of 44 for 359, including 2 touchdowns to Alec Pierce in the final 5 minutes of the ball game. What are your expectations for Flacco, and what has he looked like since then? And do we think this could be the last time we see him on an NFL football field?
Well, I'll take the second question first. I mean, it definitely is possible that this is his last hurrah. I mean, he thought he was possibly done even last year before the Cleveland Browns called him, if you recall. You know, he was on the couch, as he put it, till about 2 months left in the season. So he really doesn't know what the future holds, and he says he'll deal with that once the season is over. But you know, maybe a game like today, if he performs well, maybe that can give people a reason to take another look at him. So it does matter to Joe Flacco for sure, this game today, these last 2 performances he's had. Look, he wants to end the season on a good note. What happened last week in New York was devastating for the Colts. I mean, they fell apart against a Giants team that had lost 10 games in a row. I mean, that's just unconscionable. So, you know, Joe Flacco has an opportunity today to at least put a better spin on this end of the season for him. You know, look, I think he'll cut it loose because that's what he does. You saw it against Jacksonville on the road, and I think he'll do it again today just because that's just kind of the way he plays. Look, he's not going to hold back, and if he sees an opportunity to throw the ball down the field, he's going to try it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. It did work in Jacksonville. And we'll see if they can connect on that today, because I think that's their one calling card that they can go to is their big playmaking ability, but they just don't do it consistently enough.
And, Steven, I would think Joe Flacco would have plenty of time because Josh Hines-Allen didn't make the trip, and the Jaguars really only have Trayvon Walker in terms of any sort of pass rush specialist or guy that brings any sort of productivity to it. How do you think the Colts will go about scheming that to give Flacco as much time as he can have?
Yeah, I think they will. They do make good use of their tight ends, or at least a lot of use of their tight ends. So you may see some help if they need it, but if they don't, they're fine with the 5-man protection. I mean, they're a little young at right tackle because of the issues with Braden Smith. He's on the non-football injury list, but they've been coming along there and kind of getting a little more synergy with the group that they have right now. So the offensive line has been pretty workable and is trying to finish strong. So I like their chances of being able to make some plays down the field. And then certainly when you have issues up front, I think you have to, on defensively talking about, I think you have to worry about can you stop Jonathan Taylor? Because he is ultimately going to be their bread and butter. He has averaged about 100 yards in his last 4 games. So he's rolling, and he has a tendency to finish the season really strong. You know, he has his ups and downs, and then historically, Jonathan Taylor, he hits it at the end of the season and has had his biggest games, frankly, have been, in some cases, Week 18. So I would look for him to maybe have a big day.
And, of course, Jonathan Taylor did not play in that Week 5 meeting between these two teams. A great X factor to end on with Stephen Holder on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck covering this game this afternoon. And even more importantly, best of luck getting home. Hopefully the snow and the forecast that we're seeing from down here in Duval isn't too treacherous for you guys on the way out of Lucas Oil Stadium.
All right, yeah, just know that you're very familiar with them. So.
Yes. Hey, listen, I did do 3 years out there in Iowa. We went 3 years, or 3 years, oh, goodness, 3 weeks straight without going above 0 degrees. So, hey, happy to be in Florida. Best of luck to you guys, and hopefully the snow isn't too bad.
All right, thanks a lot. See you guys.
There he goes, Stephen Holder. Our thanks to him for joining us on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. Thanks to Hayes for setting up that interview with ESPN's Stephen Holder. One more segment to go, and we are going to go out with a bang. If you're familiar with the Fix Your Franchise series at PFF Stock Exchange, we're going to do our own version of that. We also will give you our score predictions for today's season finale for the Big Cats. Let's end it on a high note here on the Terminix Kickoff Show, brought to you by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade.
3D Digital has you covered for any of your business's digital marketing needs. From producing award-winning videos to getting those digital ads to follow your customers around the internet, our team has your back. Visit 3ddigital.com or give us a call at 904-712-4004 to schedule a free consultation today. 904-712-4004.
When mice and rats show up in your space, they can be a real pain. You need them out fast before they have time to multiply. Terminix knows how to shut down rodents, and they'll keep them from coming back to wreak more havoc. When rodents show up, so do we. Don't live with a rodent problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. TERMINIX.com.
I'm here with Clayton Bromberg of Underwoods. Underwood has completed 75 years in business, and now you are starting your next 75 years. If you were going to simplify things, what is the single most important thing in Underwood's history, and what will be the most important thing in your future?
Frank, that's simple. Our honesty and integrity. You know, our founder, H.F. Underwood's favorite saying was, know the truth and tell the truth. That's why we're the longest-standing member of the American Gem Society in Florida. Because we know you have to have the knowledge about gemstones before you can tell the truth about them. That's why we continue to educate our staff through the Gemological Institute of America and the American Gem Society. In fact, today, Underwoods has the largest American Gem Society credentialed staff of professionals east of the Mississippi River. So come by and see why we're looking forward to the next 75 years and let one of our experts assist you.
That's at Underwoods, serving excellence since 1928. In San Marco, Avondale, the shops of Ponte Vedra, Underwood Jewelers.
Bolt City AC, heating that rules.
Is your AC ready for the holidays? Bolt City Heating and Air ensures your AC stays in tip-top shape. We know that a clean AC is a healthy AC. Upgrade yours for just $96 a month and enjoy free duct cleanings with your new system. Plus, ask about our 0% financing options.
Bolt City AC, we got the crew. Bolt City AC.
Visit BoltCityAC.com.
The game where every yard counts. One player's performance stands out.
That's what you want from a leader.
Universal Roofing Contracting presents the Offensive Player of the Game.
Touchdown, what a throw.
On 1010XL.
After a storm passes, the assessment of the aftermath begins. Sometimes damage to the roof is obvious. Leaks or missing shingles, broken or damaged gutters, or tree debris. But storm damage is not always as clearly present. Universal Roofing Contracting is here to help and will come assess your roof for any hidden damage. Call Universal Roof to schedule your free roof inspection at 855-ROOF-HELP or visit universalroof.com. License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
Hi, I'm Chuck Farah. We know how important it is for you to have a vehicle after you've been injured in a car accident.
So when we represent you for your personal injury claim, we'll help you get a rental car from the insurance company while your car is being repaired. And we'll provide this service at no additional fee. If you're hurt and you've got no car, let my team go to work for you. Farah & Farah, protecting you and your family. Call us at 396-5555 or go to farahandfarah.com. Jacksonville.
Hey, Jacksonville Koozies, it's me, Soccer Sam, for Salvatore's Pizza. Rochester, New York's favorite pizza is now open in Jacksonville, Florida, Tapestry Park at the Loft Hotel Plaza. Daily $10 deals, dine in with beer and wine, and delivery at salvatores.com. The famous Formoso family brings Salvatore's Pizza, Rochester's favorite pizza, including our 32-piece sheet pizza for your next event. Go with me, baby. Salvatores.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville, starting your game day.
The Terminix Kickoff Show.
Presented by Clearwater Irrigation and Gatorade Fast Twitch on 1010XL.
This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue. This is our Colts. Whether win or lose, we love them. For the shoe, beat the Jags. Step aside, Trevor Lawrence. Richardson is king. In Indy.
Trevor Lawrence nor Anthony Richardson will be playing in this game, but come on, we had to fire you guys up with one of the internet's viral sensations as we look back at 2024, look ahead to 2025. Hayes, you'd never heard the before.
I had not. Boy, that is what great spirit.
He's up for Fan of the Year.
Yeah, young man.
Nationally.
Just
Yes.
a reminder, he's going live tonight.
He will be going live tonight with the Golden Globes if he makes it out of Lucas Oil Stadium, where they are expecting 4 to 8 inches of snow. I'm going to be on pins and needles, just like we will be on pins and needles over the next 24 hours. Come on, hope you guys had a fun little. Come on,
He's got predictions for the Golden Globes.
I know, dude. He's a movie critic. Listen, we have to have some fun with you guys, given the state of the Jaguars' 4-12 2024 campaign. I hope we gave you guys a laugh or two this morning, and we're gonna go out with an absolute blaze of glory. This is the Fix Your Franchise portion of the program. Again, our friends at PFF Stock Exchange, Connor Rogers, Trevor Sikkema, do this on their podcast, Hayes. And obviously, that's a 2-hour podcast. We've got about 10, 15 minutes left, so we're going to condense it. What they do is they go through step by step, head coach, general manager, front office structure. They look at the contracts that are currently on the books for 2025, first 3 draft picks, how you would address it. And so let's begin here in this condensed version of Fix Your Franchise on the Terminix Kickoff Show with the front office structure. If you are Shad Khan, you have the keys to the vehicle that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. What is the first thing you are doing as you fix this franchise?
Well, obviously, I think it's a clean sweep. So I'm telling Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke that's a wrap today, thanking them for their efforts and moving on. And without an in-house option either way. So new front office, we're looking for a new GM, we're looking for a new head coach. And I think the primary target should be Ben Johnson. So, whether, I would gravitate towards that first. And then with Ben Johnson's help, hire a general manager that he is in lockstep with. But again, I think another important cog that Shad needs to add is EVP of football ops. Again, to me, that doesn't necessarily have to be a decision maker, somebody setting the tone of the franchise like Tom Coughlin wanted to do when he was in that role. But Shad, I just think, needs eyes and ears that are here. They don't necessarily have to be the guys making the decision on draft picks and free agency and having a presence at practice, where you almost look like you're a coach out there. It just needs to be somebody that's in on the meetings, knows how decisions are being made between head coach and general manager, and being able to relay that information to Shad Khan so that when things go bad, Shad doesn't have to get the information from a coach and a general manager that obviously are going to be lobbying for why it's not their fault and why they should stay in their positions. So again, to me, the EVP of football ops does not have to be a decision maker. Probably shouldn't be a decision maker. But if it is, that's fine, because I do think there needs to be that layer in the organizational chart, because Shad just doesn't, he does a lot of things great, but one of the things that I think when things go poorly, it's hard for him to get a good feel for who is really responsible for this. So, but everything would be geared towards acquiring Ben Johnson, who I do think is the best young offensive mind in the sport, to come here. Salvage is too strong, but bring out the best in Trevor Lawrence, and you just hope that he can lead men. He's never been a head coach. I understand that, and we won't know that. But in terms of running an offense and doing it at a level in which obviously he's been incredibly successful, but also is cutting edge. He's creative. He makes his players look good, which is why I think they'll respond really well to him. And, and then you let Ben kind of pick a general manager that fits his eye in terms of how he wants to build the franchise. So that would be my recommendation to ownership.
So I couldn't agree with you more in terms of you need to hire that third-party voice, if you may, whether that is an EVP, director of football operations, or my personal fix would be akin to what the Detroit Lions did with Chris Spielman, a former player who is considered special counsel to the owner, Sheila Ford. And while he does not have any say in football operations whatsoever, he essentially is there to gauge the temperature of the room. And additionally, back in 2021, when they hired Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, he led a pseudo committee that not only identified Brad Holmes as the general manager and Dan Campbell as the head coach, but they also were this small group of alumni, of people involved with the organization that said, this is the culture, this is the identity, this is what we need in our next GM and our next head coach. And then they went out with, of course, the assistance of the owner and found those two candidates. I expect something similar here in Jacksonville. I will not go as far as to say that, okay, it needs to be EVP. I think that everyone in this town, Hayes, is so used to EVP because that's what they know, because that's what Tom Coughlin was. I do not think that will be the title that will be given. I think it will be a special counsel situation, advisor to the owner, something like that. But that person, in my estimation, and from what I've been told, they are exploring that. From there, we are seeing more and more, whether it was Washington last year, the New York Jets this year, searches that run simultaneously. Essentially, what you're doing is you're running a search with a search firm and this committee for the general manager, and then you're running a search for the head coach. If you find a GM you really like first, then you grab the GM, you hire him, much like the Commanders did last year with Adam Peters, and then from there, you say to this general manager, which you've been in constant communication on this, but certainly once they have the job, hey, here's our 3 or 4 finalists for head coach. What do you think? And they have some say in terms of who that head coach will be. That is my expectation for what will happen here in Jacksonville. As far as names for that, I mentioned Ian Cunningham earlier in the program. He is expected to be one of the hottest names, if not the hottest name, in the general manager search across the league, let alone potentially here in Jacksonville. Albert Breer just put together his annual hot list of future general manager names. There's a lot of great ones there. The 2 assistant general managers in Tampa, certainly names to have your eye on. A couple other names up in Detroit, in addition to Ray Agnew. There's some other names up there that I think certainly merit consideration. Lance Newmark was in Detroit for 2 decades. Now he's in Washington. I know that's a name that Breer has thrown out there with connection to Ben Johnson. As far as head coach goes, I said it on the Duval Rundown podcast last week. I'll say it again. All I can tell you right now from what I have been told is that if the Jaguars are to have a head coaching vacancy, they are looking young offensive play caller who will call the plays. Take with that information what you will. That's why the 2 names that I know of, Ben Johnson certainly has, there's the mutual interest, and I think that's been reported now from a couple different parties, and also up in Chicago as well, the mutual interest. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network has been all over that. And then Liam Cohen down in Tampa Town, where there's also some mutual interest. And the backup, if both of those plans go haywire, would be Todd Monken, who's certainly 56 years old, yes, has been a head coach at the collegiate level and obviously has tons of NFL experience.
Yeah, I really like the position the Jaguars are in. I mean, that's not the reason that I think you move off of Doug Peterson. I think that's because he's 5-17 in his last 22. But I do think the fact that I think it sets up really well for the Jaguars here. I mean, thank goodness Cincinnati got hot, because if Zach Taylor goes, then Cincinnati clearly would have been the top job. But they've won 5 straight. They're going to have a winning season. We'll see if they make it into the tournament. But there's no chance that they make a change now, which is great. So as you look at it, I mean, the Saints, you're 3 years away from winning. They need a total rebuild there because of the cap trouble that you mentioned earlier. The Jets are a rudderless ship. You don't know who your quarterback is. You do have some talent, but that doesn't feel like they're close. And then Chicago, you could be close, but you're in the most brutal division that we've seen in 20 years, and that's not going away in terms of what Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay offer up. And look, if you're an offensive-minded head coach, I think you do have to worry about playing your games in brutal weather conditions in that final quadrant of the season, where you wouldn't have that here. It's also an incredibly easy division here. And so all that stuff lines up, and we've talked about it. There is talent here. Right. It has just been poorly utilized. And so I think in looking at it, it's the perfect time. And, I think you're in a great position in terms of the candidates that are out there. I wouldn't have a problem with Mike Vrabel. I want Ben Johnson. But if Mike Vrabel ends up being the candidate, I think you can make a large case that part of the failures of Doug Peterson has been a lack of toughness. Exhibit A is how the team handled the cheap shot on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, and so they do need to find, we talk about edge as a football position, but they do need to find edge with the new head coach. Like, they need somebody who can develop a let's go win street fights mentality. I don't know that Ben Johnson has that. He very well may not, and I'm willing to concede that he may not have that. We know Vrabel would have that. Now, the problem with the Vrabel hire is, will he hire the right offensive coordinator to bring out what you need in Trevor Lawrence? But I think it's a good pool of candidates. I think that you have the best job. So, I mean, to me, shame on Shad Khan if he does not win the search, because I think he's got by far the best plan, the best ammunition to offer a candidate.
T-minus 4 minutes, so we are up against it a little bit. We will, of course, continue this conversation throughout the week here on the Superstation. To that point, I will tell you, number one, people forget Mike Vrabel gave Matt LaFleur his first OC job in Tennessee. It didn't go well, but certainly there is a track record there of hiring young offensive minds. I will also just repeat what Dan Orlovsky said on the Pat McAfee show a few weeks, and I do believe that Mike Vrabel is spoken for. As far as the situation with the roster next year, look, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram have the highest cap numbers, so let's kind of combine these two things, Hayes. I do think you're going to have to say goodbye to one or both of them. Again, it will be ultimately beauty in the eyes of the beholder of whoever the GM and the head coach are, but I do think those cap numbers are large. The Jaguars right now have the 18th most cap space. I know it will emotionally be difficult. They've been safety valves for Trevor Lawrence, but I think Parker Washington has showed you enough. Certainly if he's in the slot, Evan Ingram's also in the slot, and whether you go out in free agency or the draft and you get another outside wide receiver, I know there's those of you who want to go wide receiver first round. I would personally go corner, and that's where I think you'll see a reworked Jaguars team. But to your point, the bones are there and the pieces are there for this to be a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, whoever is making the call on the roster, whether that is Ben Johnson, whether that's the general manager that they hire, you don't have a big problem here. I mean, Christian Kirk, I'd have no problem if they brought him back. But I will say you have now found your number one receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. So it's sort of hard to justify a cap number as high as it will be for Christian Kirk when he is no longer the number one option here, and it's not even close. So, but they could go either way. It's not keeping Christian Kirk would not prevent them from doing things that they want to do. So it's a advantageous situation to be in. I mean, with Evan Ingram, you're saving just over $6 million in a quarter. I think you could bring Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram back. And yeah, you're not going to be splashing in free agency, but again, I don't know that you really have to be. And you do have 10 draft picks of 2 3s and 2 4s that should be guys that can develop and hopefully contribute in time. So I think they're, from a cap standpoint, I think they're in good shape. If they choose to get rid of Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, I would understand it. But I think it's a nice situation that they're not like a lot of clubs where they have to do it. They have no choice but to do it.
And thank you to Trent Baalke for that, if nothing else. I do think that as we looked ahead to our picks, I think that it'll be an interesting next 24 hours here. And I want you all to keep us locked here on the Superstation throughout it. Hayes Carlyon, do the Jaguars get the win today?
I do not think they do. I'll say that because they can't get to Joe Flacco, he does enough. I'll take the Colts to win 20-17.
20-17. Dylan, thank you for being our producer extraordinaire this year.
Thank you.
What's your score prediction for today?
I have no idea, but in typical Jaguar fashion, I think the Jags will find a way to win.
Oh, wow.
And for the next, 12, 18 hours-ish, we're going to be sitting here thinking, are they going to bring it back? Or are we going to let it go?
I've got the Jags covering, Colts winning 16-12. Let's end on some scorigami. Our thanks to Stephen Holder of ESPN. Our thanks to Frank Frangie. Our thanks to you for joining us all season long. The Publix Tailgate Show comes up next. This has been the Terminix Kickoff Show. We will catch you later.